Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 6 of MPA 530, Public Finance and Budgeting. This slide will serve as my overview slide, and this week we will be discussing and looking into the City of Hesperia's um, revenue sources and also be talking about progressive and regressive tax. On this slide, we're looking at the way the city generates its income or revenues. And by looking at the pie chart, we can see that the top 3 ways it generates income is by its number one is charges for services coming in at $34 million at 26.4%. And number two, with a little over 28 million, is income generated from taxes. And then number three, we're looking at reimbursements and other revenues. So let's take a quick look at the breakdown of the top 3 ways the city brings in money. Coming in at number one for the city's top revenue, um, charges for services. And the number one service that they charge for is the water rate surcharge. And that brings in over $11 million, and that makes up 33.5% of the charges for services um, service. Yes. One of the reasons why I believe that the water rate surcharge is the portion that brings in the most revenue for the city is that since it's considered a fee, everyone has to pay their share. For example, in Illinois, a church was suing the city that that the water surcharge was actually a tax, and a judge ruled that it wasn't, so it made the church pay the fee. Coming in at number two was taxes. And if we look into the taxes that are collected, we see that sales tax is the biggest component of the pie chart here, coming in at almost 40% with a little over $11 million. And number two, we have, it says more, 36 grouped of almost $11 million of generated income. And just real quick, I don't want to spend too much time on that. Uh, 36 group includes the gas tax, franchise fees, utilities, um, and ar arterial funding. So I'll just leave it at that. And it breaks it down even further. But as we can see, sales tax is number one. We want to take a closer look at this graph. And by looking at it, we can see that sales tax make the bigger portion of this, right? It's at 39.5%, bringing in over $11 million, which I just said. But if we look at the second one, which is more and then 36 group, that brings up almost $11 million. And that's up to 37.7%. And when we actually click on that, we see that there's other sales tax hidden in that. Um, so to say that only 39.5% of taxes are generated from sales, or the revenue is generated from sales, is a little misleading. It's actually higher. Um, so we come to find out that the city's second highest revenue maker is a regressive tax. And coming in at number three, and the city's top 3 revenues is reimbursements and other revenues. This one's broken down into so many little mini sections. So we'll just take a quick look at the top grossing one, which is reimbursements and other agencies. I'll leave it at that, but that makes up 38.4% of this. And that concludes the top 3 ways a city generates revenue. So what we learned this week is that there are 3 different types of ways that a city can tax people, or not just a city, but any kind of government. Being the progressive tax, where the tax is paid more by the rich, the regressive tax, which is paid more by the lower income people, or a flat tax where everyone pays the same. I have concluded that the city of Hesperia has chosen to use a regressive tax, and mainly through a sales tax. This concludes my presentation for this week. Have a wonderful weekend.